last program here to talk about in part one of What's the Fix? West Virginia, 5-7, and I tell you what, we the first fan base that we
If we can take
angered.
a victory lap on one program this year, it
Yeah,
is the fan base of West Virginia coming after us for,
they
predicting that they would have a bad season. And hey, guys, hate to tell you, but
man, we've got the receipts. I'm sure if I wanted to cull through those, we had people saying this is an 8, 9, 10 win team. They went 5-7, and for a lot of the reasons that we said, right? One, we didn't believe in JT Daniels. Why would you, right? What has he done at the collegiate level that would really make you believe he's going to lead your program to lofty heights? Now, I know he had a great short stint at Georgia, and then he got hurt, and then obviously he never gets the job back. Because Stetson Bennett's on the warpath and leads them to back-to-back national championship games. Um, but they need a consistent brand on offense, and honestly, I think maybe Graham Harrell being there for only a short stint was good for them because at this point, that offense was not good last year. JT Daniels was not good last year. You called on Garrett Green and he gave you a little bit of hope. Maybe their brightest spot was beating Baylor in that shootout on a Thursday night.
that was a fun
Um,
game.
it,
That
it
was a
was a
really
fun
fun
game,
game.
and hey, they competed in the opener, right? They nearly beat
Yeah,
Pitt. That was not an elite Pitt team, as we were soon to find out, but they need a more consistent brand on offense. I don't know if Chad Scott, who's the running backs coach who was promoted to OC, is going to bring that or not, but they've got to find it this year. Conversely, what we were most scared of and what was absolutely true, that secondary sucked. And the pass rush really didn't do a ton. They had some more veteran guys on the defensive line, but it just wasn't enough to really do much. And look, when you go 5-7, I you know, I know you might like some of those guys, but ooh, they didn't get the job done. And then even worse, everybody transferred out. Right? At one point I tweeted, everyone's taking the country roads out of West Virginia, and again had Mountaineers fans in my mentions going, I don't even know who that guy is. Well, listen, man. I mean, like you lose
it
Charles
started
Wood.
10 games for you this year. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, Charles Woods on the first day of the transfer portal being open is not only in the portal, but he's committed to SMU, where he's from. So they've got to build some sort of consistency there, some sort of brand identity on offense and defense. And look, very similarly to Matt Campbell, do we need to be talking about Neil Brown
I
on
was
his way
just gonna
out?
say, are you
Frankly, I'm
surprised
shocked
Neil
he's still
Brown
there.
still has a job?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
100%. I thought he was gone.
me too. Because when West Virginia has been successful in the modern era, you think about it, they've had a fantastic offensive mind that has just given them a great identity on offense. You think back to when Rich Rod was coach with Pat White. They really understood what they wanted to do, and that made them extremely successful in the Big East. Fast forward to Dana Holgerson. He had an offensive game plan that let them keep up with the Big 12 when it was an offense heavy league. West Virginia's in a spot. We talk about all these other recruiting solutions for these other programs. The fix for West Virginia isn't necessarily recruiting. Obviously, you're going to need talent, but they just don't have a strong talent base close by. Like
Hmm.
they are going to have to dip into other places. They're going to have to get creative in getting talent to Morgantown because West Virginia is a small state. Virginia has some talent. Pennsylvania has some talent. The Northeast is getting better at producing talent, but those guys are all, every power program in the country, if there's a player out of West Virginia, is going to come try to cherry pick that guy. And he's probably going to go get cherry picked. So
Right.
I don't know that you can just wave a magic wand and say, hey, this is the path to recruiting and creating a pipeline of talent consistently to West Virginia. So it's got to be schematic, right?
Hmm.
The fix has to be schematic. They have to have, like you're saying, an offensive identity and a defensive identity that's going to set them apart and put them in a successful place to win. Neil Brown, and look, West Virginia was not put in a good position when Dana Holgerson left for the University of Houston. I think that caught everybody in Morgantown by surprise. It was a
Yeah.
shocking move, and now they have to face him every single year in the Big 12. So I look, hiring Neil Brown, I don't think it's like this inexcusable offense. I think keeping him this long, keeping him after this year, I don't know what you've seen from him 4 years in to say, yeah, that's our guy for the future. Maybe you felt like you just didn't have a guy this round on the carousel, but you've got to find a guy that just really gets it and has an
Yeah.
offensive plan. I think if you're West Virginia, hear me out on this one. Are you hoping that Bobby Petrino is a godsend at Texas A&M and you can just hire him as your head coach next year? Because Bobby Petrino in Morgantown, I
Could
don't
get
know,
fun.
match made in heaven. I'm
It
not going
could
to say that,
it
but
it could get fun.
they could be singing a lot of country roads if Bobby Petrino brought that offense
Would
to
would
Morgantown. But
would
it's going to take. I say that mostly as a joke. Like I'm not convinced Bobby Petrino is going to be super successful at A&M, but it's got to be someone like that, right? That has
yeah.
skins on the wall, not necessarily the hottest name in coaching, but has an offensive plan and identity that he can just kind of plug and play pieces in.
Yeah, I agree. West Virginia has to have the high flying offense, right? That's what they've when they've been successful. That's their mo. That's their bread and butter. And
Even
you
in
know, I
like this is not a one-to-one parallel, but even look at their basketball team, right? Like Press
right.
Virginia is an identity that kids they can recruit a certain type of athlete to fit that plan and it wins and it works for them. And it's, something that worked for them for a really long time. Not a one-to-one comparison across sports obviously, but they're in the same recruiting situation where it's going to be really hard to get a 5-star one and done to Morgantown.
Gracious him.